one proposed constitutional amendment that would be near and dear to your background as a former county clerk is the proposed constitutional amendment that would ban local governments from accepting outside private grants or equipment. Do you believe an outright ban is good policy on accepting those outside gifts or grants?
I have a bill that we're going to release that will help fund county and local governments, but that argument is different than having third party entities. And I will use the example. If there was a Second Amendment, a ballot initiative in the state of Wisconsin that the NRA or other gun rights organizations would love to have as many turnout as possible, sunk $8 million into the state of Wisconsin, that would influence that ballot initiative. I think Democrats would be howling, to say the least. So I do not believe that third party interests should be involved in our electoral process at all. And let's talk about funding at the county and local level, knowing full well that there's never enough money. I get that. But I do believe this. It's time for the state of Wisconsin to fund county and local governments for the state and federal elections that they administer.
Looking at the latest series of election bills put forth by Republicans, one would ban local governments from accepting outside money or equipment to help run their elections. Now, what is the case for one, allowing your clerk and other clerks to get that money, and two, having, as happened in 2020, more than 80% of that money from the Center for Tech and Civic Life, at least, it went to the state's 5 biggest cities?
Well, I mean, just to start with, right, the biggest cities, by virtue of being the 5 biggest cities, are where the population is. So it makes sense that we got a larger share of the funding. But here, let's be clear. It's not that I want to have to go out and get grants to provide basic city services. But if the legislature refuses to either fund cities or allow us to raise revenue like we need to, then we are going to have to turn to other sources of funding.
Now, would you be open to one proposal that would have all of the outside money go into one pot and then it's distributed equally per capita? Because although the 5 biggest cities do have a lot of people, it's about 20% of Wisconsin's population versus 80% of the money from that one group. So would you be open to something that says it's all one pot and then divided per capita evenly?
Well, if the state wants to apply for grants and then administer them, that's fine with me. It's not my business. It's also not up to me how private philanthropy or nonprofit organizations, run their granting processes.
So drop boxes were also going to be part of this bill until former President Trump slammed the idea, Republican leaders at the Capitol here, then abandoned it. Would you have accepted the original proposal that was in a bill draft that would have limited to cities with more than 70,000 people, like Madison, of course, to 4 drop boxes max? None of them would be allowed at city parks. They're under constant video surveillance. Would you consider that an acceptable compromise?
No, I think that's ludicrous. I mean, come on. There are states that conduct all of their voting via drop boxes. We know that this is a proven, safe solution for people to cast their ballots.